One of the most proprioceptively perplexing exercises I teach is called Propeller Arms. It is a cross-pattern movement where your shoulders are whirling in opposite directions. It's simply an extension of the cross-patterning that happens during walking, but when you take it through its full circle, its full circumduction, it really confounds people. So I'm going to try to walk you through an explanation of it and take you through a tour of your mechanoreceptors, those parts of your tissues that are communicating the position of your shoulder in space to your brain. So I'll show you the move of the propeller arms. It looks like this. So your shoulders are making circles in opposite directions, and now I'm just reversing it. And of course it's easy for me because I've figured this out. I've mapped this for myself. But just to give you a small background on the anatomy and why it can be so vexing for people, the shoulder doesn't make a pure circle. It actually does something called circumduction. So as I make the circle, you can see here, it actually collides with this projection off the side of the scapula called the acromion process. So it can't keep going. It has to actually internally rotate in order to get beyond that, and then it can end up going back and behind. And the same thing in reverse. Here, in the back side of it, I hit up against the acromion. I have to externally rotate the shoulder in order to get beyond that. And so you need to anticipate that acromion process is going to be there as you make these circles, and so you want to make it as safely as possible. Otherwise, you'll just end up getting an injury here, a bursitis or friction on the rotator cuff tendons, and that's pretty miserable. So let's heighten some proprioception. Take a Coregeous ball and head to a wall. And this is just a really simple way of getting some tactile feedback from some of the Merkel cells and the Ruffini endings in the fatty layer, in the skin, and in the transition zone between the fatty layer and deeper fascial structure. So focus on, and as much of this territory as you want, create some shear. I'm being sensitive to doing that because I have a microphone and I don't want to annoy you with all my crunchy, creaky sounds, but definitely spend time creating as much smush and striache in these superficial layers as possible. Then we're going to go a level deeper into, now in terms of pressure and touch into the deltoids, some rotator cuff muscles, and all around the scapula. So this is just a little deltoid freestyle where I'm going to use the plus ball and roll over as much of the mass of the deltoid as possible, and even down to where the deltoid tendon inserts itself. And that way I'll get to that tendinous stuff, the Golgi tendon organs. So in the belly of the muscle itself, I'm getting to talk to muscle spindles, of course, because the ball is also touching skin and superficial fascia. Probably getting some feedback through those mechanosensors as well. And then traveling to the other side, you can spend as much time as you want here, press pause if you like. And again, talking to the myofascia, talking to the tendons, but also considering I can get to joint capsule stuff here, so I can find those Pacinian corpuscles that are located in deep joint capsules, as well as the many free nerve endings that are also giving proprioceptive feedback. So I can find the Pacinian corpuscles by trying to find the head of the femur, rather the head of the humerus, and manipulating that around as much as possible. Then switching to mapping the scapula. So this is the scapula scalpel. For the scapula scalpel, I'm just going to try to trace as many times as possible the actual shape of the scapula. So I'm not on the scapula, but I'm tracing the surrounding myofascia. And this is going to help to give my body the feedback of where that scapula can move. It'll give the brain the feedback of how the scapula can move. Because when you're doing the propeller arms, the scapula goes into full upward rotation, it goes into full downward rotation, as well as the head of the humerus doing its thing at the glenohumeral joint. So the more I can map all the tissues that participate in propeller arms, then hopefully I'll have that quick proprioceptive relay to the brain, and then my brain will then have better motor control, especially as we navigate around that pesky acromion process. So you can make multiple circles in one direction and then multiple circles in the other direction. All right, so I've named a lot of different mechanoreceptors, and hopefully you're excited about just mapping this area and getting that flow to your brain. Go ahead and grab now a strap or a belt, and let's address really the point of contention of going around this acromion process. And we can do this with something called shoulder flossing version 2. So this, you want to pull your strap really taut and then elevate or lift the scapula way high, and then internally rotate your humerus and pull it back behind you. So now I have one shoulder here, this one, this right shoulder, that's actually in external rotation and flexion, and the back one is in internal rotation and extension. And then I'll slowly reset that and then switch to the other one. So what I'm trying to do is build a sense through the feedback of having this essentially stable strap, or you can also use like a stick mobility stick or a dowel, a broomstick here, so that I can really feel the head of the humerus lapping around this corner of the scapula. So I'm getting feedback through joint proprioceptors into my brain about what this move is. And then go ahead and drop your object, your strap or your stick, and then I want you to try to do the exact same thing. However, now I don't have the feedback of the joint. Now I'm going to get the feedback of the tissues around the joint, the muscles around the joint that you just rolled. So here, when I don't have an object to stabilize me, or to partially stabilize me, I'm now reliant on the muscles to move. And so that's going to give me a lot of feedback about contractile ability and control of these joints. So then come into your end range here. So I'm at flexion and external rotation in my right. I'm in internal rotation and extension in the back arm. And then you'll just travel through that several times. So this is the end stage of a walk. So if I were walking, when you're walking, you're doing the same thing. You don't end up this exaggerated, but we're in this exaggerated arm swing. And then guess what? You're just gonna take those exaggerated arm swings around. And each time I'm trying to feel that simultaneously, I'm going around the corner of that acromion and hoping, and I'm switching, hoping that my proprioceptive systems have been supercharged so that I am propelled to do propeller arms accurately, safely, and funly.